This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my idol. You're gonna acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, guys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Micheal Ritter. You can find me on Twitter at Micheal5Ritter and on Instagram at MichealRitter5, also the host of the Football Function Podcast. But on today's episode of the SmackDown Review, we're going to be talking about the show that aired on October 15th, 2021, the Supersized edition of SmackDown that aired on FS1, not Fox. And I actually forgot to change my DVR and adjust that, so I started freaking out for a little bit at 8:30 whenever I went to turn SmackDown on, and I knew that we didn't record it. So I thought I was screwed, but luckily we were able to do the whole, like if you have DirecTV, you know, sometimes you can click on it on a show that's already going on, and it'll give you the option to rewind it and start from the beginning. You just can't have any like fast forward time, so we had to sit through the commercials, which kind of sucked, but other than that, I mean, it was worth it. I was able to watch SmackDown. It ended up ending because it was well over 2 hours this time, given that it was a supersized episode of SmackDown. So I had to stay up a little bit later than normal just watching SmackDown, but it's all right. Not a problem at all. I only had to work a half day, but as soon as I got off, I was able to come here and touch up on my notes a little bit and then hop right on here because I'm ready to talk about this SmackDown with you guys. There were some good matches, 3 really good matches when you think about Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. The tag team match, that was for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships with the Street Profits and the Usos. We'll get into that as well. And then Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. Clearly, pretty big stuff happened in that one, so we'll definitely get to there towards the end or the back half of the show. I do want to mention here early in the show before we get going to bear with me a little bit. My voice is hanging on by a thread, I guess you can say. I've been doing a lot of talking this week, just podcasting, at work, just life in general. I've really been talking a lot over the past few days, so I just can feel it. Like I could feel my voice just wanting to give out. So we're going to get through this and have another good show here on the SmackDown Review. But before I get into anything that happened on the show, I want to talk about something that I heard on the mailbag episode. And this is from Brad from Pennsylvania. So shout out Brad, because this was actually a really good concept and idea. And I can't believe that no one's really brought it up before, at least to my knowledge. But it's about the Women's Tag Team Championships. You talk about just, getting rid of them and bringing in a mid-tier belt for the women. And that just makes complete sense. It's something that, it should be a no-brainer at this point, just given the shape that the roster is in right now. It's not deep enough to have tag teams on one show, much less 2 separate shows. So I just think that, at this point, it just makes too much sense to do something like that. I don't know what you would call it. You'd have to get creative. Just when you look at what the other championships are named, you couldn't just come up with some like rinky-dink name. Although they did do that with the Universal Championship. They kind of just pulled that out of there. You know what? I'm used to it by now, but at first I definitely was kind of like, well, just bring back the World Heavyweight Championship. Come on, what are you doing here? But anyways, I think that's a really good idea, though. It's really something that could benefit a lot of women, could give them a chance at a title. Not everybody's capable of being on the same tier or in a good, main event storyline with Charlotte or Becky Lynch or Sasha. The women that are on the top of the roster, that's who are going to be featured time after time. We've seen it. Every now and then you get a new face in there, maybe like Lacey Evans kind of has a match back in 2018, 2019. Alexa Bliss has had her run with that championship. There's been a lot of women who have kind of peaked there, but no one's really, stuck around enough to, actually submit themselves on the level of the 4 horsemen. And so I think that having a mid-tier belt it should be a no-brainer, like I said. So hopefully somebody's listening to this. And shout out to you, Bradford, Pennsylvania, for mentioning that and suggesting it on the mailbag, because that is a very good idea. But with all that being said, I do want to go ahead and get into the SmackDown review. And this was a pretty long episode of SmackDown. It almost felt like a Raw. It was like 2.5 hours, maybe 2:45. I'm not really sure. It was long. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I had no fast forward time. So I had to watch all the commercial breaks. I felt the entire duration of the show. So I wasn't able to get finished until much, much later than what I normally would have. But it wasn't really an issue. It was entertaining. Like I said, we had a lot of good matches. Some storyline stuff that got developed. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar kind of closed out the show, so we'll definitely get there much, much later. But let's start off here with what opened the show, and it's Edge coming out and cutting a passionate promo about Seth Rollins. And it's about Seth Rollins invading his home, and he's making a huge deal about it, like you would expect, talking about, that's the place where he breaks bread with his family. That's the place where he puts Band-Aids on his daughter's cuts, things like that. That's where they go to sleep. And essentially Seth Rollins just pissed all over it. Well, as soon as he said that, I kind of said to myself, well, if it's that important to you and it means that much, why would you just leave the door unlocked? I know it's not personally you. It was Beth Phoenix who was, at home supposedly at the time, going out getting groceries or whatever she was doing. But still, if it's that important, lock the door. That's a pretty simple fix. Someone won't be able to go inside your house if you lock the door. But anyways, he kind of continues on by saying that at Crown Jewel, inside Hell in a Cell, he's going to leave a scar on Seth Rollins' skull that's not going to be able to heal or something along those lines. Another deep, really good, passionate promo from Edge. He is definitely the best on the mic in the WWE right now. I don't really think it's close. Maybe Paul Heyman. I kind of mentioned MVP being another good one, Drew McIntyre. There are people who are good on the mic, but nobody is quite as good as Edge. And he's so polished. He knows how to deliver a promo, and he just brings that experience. And, the reps are no question. He's been in the business for decades at this point, so he knows what he's doing out there. And, it's showing. This is some of the best work that we've seen from Edge on the mic in his entire career. Just go back and look at some of his promos. Some of the things he's done over the past couple of years, whether it's Randy Orton, Edge, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. There's certainly a lot of things that you can look at, and a lot of segments that Edge has taken things to that next level. And that's kind of what I talked to my roommate about while we were watching it, is that, man, he tells a story with his eyes. He makes you believe. He pulls you into the moment, and that's really what you're supposed to do. So kudos to Edge for, in my opinion, being the best person on the mic in the entire WWE. We do hear from Seth Rollins a little bit later in the show, although there's not an interaction, there's not an encounter between these two wrestlers, so I thought that was a little bit strange, given that we're not going to see them before Crown Jewel. So that's weird, but I guess it is what it is, and we'll see what happens whenever we get there next week, who's going to win this Hell in a Cell match. So it's certainly something to look forward to on October 21st. Although a lot of us will not be able to watch that pay-per-view, myself included. I'll be at work. I might tune in a little bit later, but Thursday's a recording night for me on the football function, given that it's a Thursday night football game. We cover that, and then we kind of preview the weekend ahead, and all the games are going to be happening. So Thursday's a really busy day and night for me. So we'll have to catch up on Crown Jewel at some point. I'm not really sure when, because I got to do a Friday night review that next day. I don't really know kind of how we're going to do that. Matt's going to cover it, obviously, but in terms of me watching it, I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to fit that into my schedule, and I'm sure I'll be able to do that, but I'll put a little bit of a pin in the Edge stuff for now, because like I said, we'll get more into that whenever Seth Rollins comes out a little bit later in the show, and he has himself a little bit of a promo, and he talks about Edge. But up next, we get a match. It's a King of the Rings semifinals match between Finn Balor and Sami Zayn. And as you'd expect, another great match. These two have history together. We've seen these two guys fight in NXT. We've seen them fight on SmackDown before in the past, probably on Raw, back whenever they were both on that brand. So there's definitely history there between these two. Phenomenal wrestlers. They put on probably a 10 to 12 minute match. There was a lot of time to kill here. So you know that these two are going to get a lot of time in the ring. And it's kind of back and forth throughout the early and mid portions of the match. Finn really doesn't take full control until Sami Zayn he's trying to steal and win by having his feet on the ropes, having a little bit of a roll up, puts their feet on the second rope to get that extra leverage. The referee, Jessica Carr, I believe it is, the female referee that's on SmackDown, she kind of catches it, tells Sami Zayn, hey, get your damn legs off the rope. What are you doing there? That's where Finn takes control. Kind of go back and forth for a little bit more. And then Finn eventually hits a botched coup de grace. You can kind of tell here. It's very rare that he botches this move, but his feet kind of slip off the chest of Sami Zayn as soon as he lands, and then his ass lands on Sami's chest, and you kind of worry, oh damn, did that hurt? And you see Sami Zayn mouth, "I'm good." I believe my roommate caught that, but I've noticed in the past that Sami Zayn has been on the wrong side of these botched coup de grace from Finn Balor. Because remember, I don't remember when it was, but I know I covered it on the show. He literally landed on his throat one time. And I was really worried about Sami then, but this time kind of just sits on him, and that's a lot of body weight coming down pretty fast. So I thought that maybe his chest might have been a little injured there, but it wasn't. He said he was good, so but he is eliminated. I mean, he pins him after that coup de grace. So Sami Zayn is no longer in the King of the Ring tournament. Makes sense. He's not going to be at Crown Jewel like we would expect. Finn Balor advances to the finals. I'm not really sure what to expect in terms of who his opponent's going to be. I could see either one of those guys, Xavier Woods or Jinder Mahal, winning that semifinals match that they're going to have on Raw. If you were asking me who I think is going to, probably Xavier Woods. I think that Xavier versus Finn is a little bit more of an exciting matchup for the actual King of the Ring. But Jinder Mahal wouldn't be a bad king, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be a good matchup with Finn, but in terms of what the fans want, it just makes sense to give Xavier that opportunity, have him go one-on-one with Finn, and go over and beat Finn, and maybe have a little bit of a heel turn. I heard a lot of people mention that, whether it was on the mailbag or just on Twitter, somewhere during the week, I've heard a lot of people talk about the possibility of Xavier Woods turning heel after the King of the Ring, and it would make sense. I mean, it is no secret this tournament and this structure is designed for a heel, you know. I mean, Matt's been, the first person talking about that. So you guys all know what to expect. A heel is likely going to be involved here. They're not going to have this be a babyface between babyface and, nothing happens. I just can't see that being the outcome. So I guess just pay attention on Raw to see who Finn Balor will be fighting there in the finals. But continuing on here, we get Naomi versus Sonya Deville. This is a matchup we've all been waiting for, right? Anticipating for a little bit now, seeing the build-up. Well, not so fast. Sonya comes out. And by the way, 14 months since Sonya Deville's had a match. 418 days to be exact. That's a long time to not compete whenever this is what you do. This is probably what you've been training for the better part of a decade now. And it was nice to see her get in the ring. But like I said, not so fast. It's not just this one-on-one Naomi versus Sonya that we've been thinking that we're going to get for the past month and a half, however long it's been. Because Sonya comes out dressed kind of similar in a normal outfit, like you would expect her to come out in her official role. Like she had the tie on and everything like that. So I was like, wait, what the hell's going on? Because when she comes out, she says that Naomi didn't let her finish last week whenever she was explaining the details of their match. And it's actually Naomi versus Sonya and Shayna Baszler. So yeah, I guess you could say that makes a little bit of a difference there in terms of who has the advantage. So, I mean, like you would expect, 2-on-1 beatdown for the most part. Shayna Baszler does a majority of the work, but I mean, Sonya Deville does get in a little bit there. She does get physical in this match, does a little bit running knees, a lot of punches to the midsection while Shayna Baszler was holding Naomi. And a little bit of a sidebar here, Naomi looked great tonight. In terms of being in shape, in terms of moving around. I mean, clearly she's extremely athletic. That's no secret. She was a professional dancer for multiple sports teams. So she's definitely in the top tier of athletes. But I mean, just seeing her in the ring, just in terms of how she's looked over the past few years, never looked bad once. But just something about her, I mean, she was definitely glowing, I guess you could say, no pun intended. But anyways, continuing on here about this stuff, I mean, like I said, Shayna dominates this match. She pretty much just beats the hell out of her. Sonya kind of chimes in a little bit, does a little extra stuff, and eventually puts her foot on Naomi and gets the pinfall. So technically, Sonya Deville gets the win here, and she pins Naomi, and this thing is definitely not over. I think this was kind of just the beginning. Sonya Deville had some different ring gear. I mean, you guys kind of know what she's worn in the past. Right before she left WWE in terms of her wrestling role, and she took a little bit of a time off before she came back to this official role. She had this new gear where she kind of had a shirt hanging down or a flag, something that was hanging in the back of her back pocket, and she was just wearing really tight black pants. I mean, it was a nice look for her, and I feel that's where her character was starting to change, where you noticed, okay, she has new gear now. Well, the gear that she had on tonight, or last night, I guess you could say, on SmackDown, was similar to what Baron Corbin would wear whenever he had that night after prom gear. You know what I'm talking about? That button-up shirt with slacks on. She kind of had that with the tie, everything like that. So I could see this being maybe her new look, where she's kind of part-time wrestler, part-time official. I don't really know that this is going to be a weird dynamic seeing how she makes this transition, but the gear was definitely something that I noticed was different. But Naomi does get embarrassed here. She's going to stay on SmackDown, so we'll not see the last of Naomi, and likely not see the last of Sonya Deville either. And Shayna Baszler, one of my personal favorite draft picks that came over to SmackDown. And I noticed that, like, all the people who had, like, maybe not all of them, I know for sure Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, they had, like, their own video package, like, promoting them coming over to SmackDown and basically trying to hype up the fans. I thought that was a nice little touch to make it feel, at least more like a draft, like the people who actually did get drafted from a different brand to the other, like those two. You're kind of just introducing them to the fans and, like, trying to get you excited. So I did appreciate that from WWE to get us a little bit excited. Up next, we get that much anticipated Seth Rollins promo. They advertised this as Seth, quote unquote, unleashes hell. That's what they kind of said it was going to be before they went to commercial break, and then they came back as Seth Rollins was making his entrance wearing one of his exotic suits, as you would expect. But he comes out and he basically just laughs at Edge. Like, he laughs, like, obnoxiously for thinking that he has a chance against him at their Hell in a Cell match. And then he says, and I almost said at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, that's just kind of how, like, robotic I'm kind of like, or at least they've got me brainwashed to just expect that. Like, if it's a match, despite being worthy of being in the Hell in a Cell, and we'll get to that, but, like, I almost just want to say that the pay-per-view Hell in a Cell is coming. It's weird that we're going to get a Hell in a Cell match, not at the actual pay-per-view. But like I was saying, this match being worthy of the Hell in a Cell, it's just beautiful to see. The fact that we've seen it get so personal. It's a feud and a program that is 7 years in the making when that first seed was planted. So it is long-term storytelling. It's beautiful to see it actually end probably in a Hell in a Cell. This is one of the rare instances where they do it the right way. And having somebody like Edge, whenever he made that challenge, you, me, Hell in a Cell, that's just so badass to see. And definitely looking forward to this match. But before I just completely just start talking about the actual match coming up, I don't want to skip this actual promo that Seth Rollins had, because, I mean, he continued on here by saying that he's better than Edge in every single possible way, and that he's manipulated the master of mind games, a.k.a. Edge. And he makes it very clear. I mean, he says it multiple times that he's not scared or intimidated to face Edge inside the Hell in a Cell. I mean, he says it so many times that it's like almost as if he's trying to convince himself. That's like almost what it seems. But before he leaves, he adds that he spent more time inside the cell than Edge has, and that the experience and everything, and that his experience inside of the cell and everything that the cell brings will benefit him, and he'll have the advantage over Edge. And that's kind of weird. I mean, I haven't done the math myself, but I mean, I guess it does kind of make sense that Edge would not have spent as much time in the Hell in a Cell as Seth Rollins. I mean, it's just different. Back then, there wasn't a pay-per-view specifically dedicated to it, so if you weren't in a program that was worthy of that, you weren't going to get in the Hell in a Cell. So I could see that being a little bit of a factor in why Edge might be seeing less opportunities than Rollins, given that Rollins is in this era, and he's probably had multiple Hell in a Cell pay-per-views, probably like 6 now, right? It doesn't mean he's always been in the match, but he's had those opportunities. Edge wasn't afforded those opportunities, so it does make sense. It kind of caught me off guard at first, just given that one's career is already basically over and the other one's probably like still got like several years left. We're witnessing history, I guess you can say, with a lot of the wrestlers who are on the roster right now. I think this is an underrated era, an underrated time, because I mean the things like with everything that they make it so easy to complain. If I could spit it out. WWE, that is, they make it very easy to complain and, to not like their product. I mean, I'll be the first to say they have so many things wrong with what they're doing right now. I mean, people say that it's a star issue that WWE has, and that is true. But at the same time, there's a lot of times where we're complaining about how a lot of people aren't getting used properly. So, I mean, you got to use them properly to build the stars. They don't want to build the stars, though. So they give us so many opportunities to, be upset with what they're doing. And I guess without getting any more off topic, though, I think that when it's all said and done, we're going to really look back and, enjoy, or at least think fondly of some of the wrestlers that we got to watch during this era, because it really is. I mean, it is a pretty stacked roster. There's something wrong with creative. I don't really know, can't put my finger on it what it is. Probably Bruce Pritchard. I mean, I have a feeling that he has a lot to do with why the product likes to drop pretty routinely, and you see that now more than ever. And it kind of sucks it doesn't suck for us because we're wrestling fans that get an alternative like AEW, someone who is really giving WWE a run for their money right now. And you can just expect that to continue. I mean, AEW isn't going anywhere. So WWE better get their stuff together, get the right people in those spots who can make the product better, because I think that that they have some pretty good competition. And it's so good to see as a wrestling fan. And you just hope that the WWE will rise up to the occasion. We can get 2 good promotions and have just a plethora of content to watch throughout the week. But basically, without, completely straying off where I was talking about. I know I was on the Seth Rollins stuff and basically talking about how I think he is one of the best superstars right now in the company. And that's kind of how I got on the roster stack, this and that. But anyways, continuing on here talking about the SmackDown review, I will get back to that. We get a Queen's Crown match between Carmella and Zelina Vega. And they have like a backstage segment where they have a quote-unquote Queen's agreement where they basically just like agree to not hit each other in the face. And during the match, because the match isn't very long, Carmella throws that out the window. I mean, this is a match between 2 heels. Somebody was going to do that. And she punches Zelina Vega. And as Zelina was about to go try to, get her back, Carmella runs out of the ring to try to put on her protective mask. But it was in the hands of somebody that Carmella did not want to see, Liv Morgan. And Liv kind of just like acts like she's going to hit her, and Carmella takes off running, which is kind of weird. Why would Carmella cower away like that when you beat Liv Morgan last week? So I just thought that was weird to see. It was kind of like backwards for Carmella. Like they're still trying to like make Liv Morgan look better than Carmella, but you made her lose last week. Like make it make sense, like that absolutely doesn't. So that was just weird. But I mean, after that, Zelina Vega gets the roll up. So we get a nice little roll up in the show to qualify Zelina Vega for the finals in this whole Queen's Crown tournament. And I think that she's one of the favorites to win. I think the crown itself looks the best on her. So she's somebody who I don't know if I'm going to like officially pick her to win, but I could see her definitely, putting on a good show in the finals with whoever it is that she's going against, whether it is Shayna Baszler or Doudrop. But another thing that happened here was Happy Talk with Madcap Moss telling some more of their corny jokes where they've been doing that lately. Another thing I noticed here, Baron Corbin is just terrible at fake laughing. And you could just tell. I mean, he doesn't have to try to, go so hard. He's making it seem like it's like a hysterical moment where like he can't breathe, and then like 2 seconds later he snapped out of it talking. Like, it's just weird. He's just not somebody who's good at, acting like he's laughing. But, I'm not trying to ruin those moments for anybody if you enjoy that stuff. I mean, it's not like I'm, really, trying to crap on it or anything like that. Just basically, Corbin needs to work on that or, switch it up a little bit. But this segment, I guess, the Happy Talk segment, doesn't last very long at all. It ends whenever they get interrupted by Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs, one of Rick Boogs' better nights on that electric guitar. And I know that has nothing to do with wrestling, but I mean, if they're going to bring it out there, then you got to analyze it. You got to cover it, I guess you could say. And Pat McAfee was, jumping on the table, doing his normal stuff. One of the best parts, or I guess one of the best parts of Pat McAfee's night is whenever those two come out. And it's just entertaining. Some people might not like it. I am not one of those people. I think this is some of the best stuff that's going on SmackDown. Definitely like top 3 to 5 is the weekly stuff that we get from Pat McAfee. But the best thing that I thought about this segment, again, doesn't have anything to do with wrestling, because the whole Shinsuke and Rick Boogs coming out, there really wasn't a reason for it. Like, it was almost just like a distraction to end the Happy Talk segment, and then another way to like bring out the Street Profits, because when Rick Boogs was there with his electric guitar, he like immediately transitions into playing the Street Profits entrance music, because whenever that hits, he starts playing that, similar to what he does to Shinsuke. And that was just badass. Like, I wrote that down here in my notes. Like, wow, that was just badass to see. And it really shows how good Boogs is as a guitar. And he's just kind of like no pun intended, he's electrifying. Like, as a character, as a personality, he has charisma. So he's somebody who I think is not going anywhere. He's paired right now with Shinsuke. I think that's a pretty good pairing. Eventually, he's going to go out on his own. I hope he can last on his own, because I like Rick Boogs, and I'm glad that he's over here on Friday Night SmackDown. But the street fight between the Usos and the Street Profits, I guess they had a little bit of a home field advantage there. Street Profits, street fight, get it? Yeah, definitely. I guess I belong on the Happy Talk segment with Corbin and Madcap Moss telling terrible jokes. But anyways, this was one of the best matches of the night. arguably the best one. It was physical as hell. Kendo sticks and steel chairs galore. People just getting absolutely the hell beat out of them, specifically Jey Uso. You get your routinely, or I guess your, what's the word I'm looking for? Trademark Montez Ford splash from the heavens. But this one was actually like a change in direction in midair. It was badass. Like he started one way and he kind of did like a 180 and flipped the opposite way, just kind of showcasing everything that he can do and how athletic he is. And I'll get to Montez Ford here in just a little bit, but I mean, the Usos end up winning this match after hitting like a double super kick to Angelo Dawkins, just sandwiching his head, and then each of them hit an Uso splash, so we got 2 of those as well. And then they pin him, so the Street Profits lose this match. The Usos retain their championship. No surprise there. But one thing I will say, you guys know I like to make comparisons here on the show. I mean, I've made them in the past. And one that I really am starting to get behind is Montez Ford reminds me so much of a young Randy Orton. I mean, Randy Orton wasn't doing the splash from the heavens. I'm not saying that, but just look about like some of the drop kicks that Montez Ford does, just how ripped he is as like a young person. I mean, just picture it. He really does. I mean, I know that they're doing completely different things at this point in their career, like whenever Randy Orton was just getting started and kind of breaking out of Evolution and things like that. I just think that when you can look at somebody like Orton and how he's built, just in stature, his frame, and look at Montez Ford, they're not that far off. I think the charisma's there. He's athletic as hell, like I just mentioned. Everything is there for Montez Ford to be an absolute star. They just have to do it right. But Randy Orton is somebody that you can look at and say, man, he can be another version of Randy Orton. You just have to book him right and have to build him the right way. And I think they're doing that. They're on the way. You could look at Bianca Belair and Montez Ford as just somebody or a couple at the top of their game like we've never seen before. And I know we got Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, but they kind of already made themselves, like they were made people, and then they got together, whereas Montez Ford and Bianca Belair they did their thing in NXT, and they're kind of rising up and climbing the mountain together, And I know the whole relationship aspect really doesn't have anything to do with wrestling, but it's just kind of cool to see like it happens simultaneous, I guess you can say, and they can really play off that, and just to see 2 people with their arrow pointing up at the same time, I mean, you could appreciate that. It's just pretty cool to see, and I'm definitely glad that Montez Ford is on SmackDown. It kind of sucks that they're going to have to travel and have different schedules and things like that, but it won't last forever. It's only going to be a little bit before they're on the same brand again, and we can probably expect that to happen next year. If Bianca's just killing it on Monday Night Raw, the Street Profits would probably be a nice little fit over there on that brand. I mean, we've already seen him over there for a pretty long time, so it wouldn't really be that big of a deal. But right now, they're on SmackDown, and I kind of just wanted to get that Montez Ford and Randy Orton comparison out there in the airwaves. And let me know what y'all think. Call in the mailbag. If you guys agree or disagree, call in there and let me know, because I listen to that show, and I definitely want to know if you agree with me, if you think I'm kind of just way far off on that, or if you have a different comparison on your own. And it doesn't have to be Montez Ford. If there's just one who you kind of just jumps out to you and you can't help but notice it every time they're in the ring, let me know, because I'm really into that kind of stuff, because you can really make comparisons with, wrestling styles and just how people are built, and just make parallels like in their career. So definitely let me know what you guys think. Feedback is always welcomed on that. But up next, we get one of the more anticipated matches of the night, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I mean, this is a 5-star Hall of Fame match right here, WrestleMania main event worthy. The fact that it was on a Friday Night SmackDown for a championship is actually pretty insane. But we should be used to it by now. This isn't something that is new. It's not something that's going away. It is what it is. We're going to continue to get championship matches week after week. But this one was for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And it was rushed. I'll say it. I mean, this match, it wasn't like it was just a 5-minute match, but you can tell they didn't give them as much. I don't know, because, it was commercial free. The match was pretty much commercial free for the entire time. And I just felt like with the quality of women here, with Bianca being on commentary, added a little bit like of distraction, took away from the actual match that was going on in the ring. I really wasn't a fan of that, although I knew what they were doing. It made sense, but I would have liked to see these two just, go at it one-on-one with, no time limit, be in the main event, the actual main event, without a contract signing, kind of waiting in the wings there. But we didn't get that tonight. We will get that at some point, but not right now. I mean, these two are about to be on different brands, and it made sense kind of who they had win this whenever you think about it. We all anticipated they would just do the title switch, like, oh, let's swap belts. No, they let Bianca Belair. See, guys, you guys got to bear with me here. It's the end of the show, so I'm kind of running on fumes, as you guys know. But anyway, they let Becky Lynch lose her championship despite just now winning it. I mean, you guys know I've said it multiple times on the show. There's no way you can pull the title off Becky Lynch. What the hell are they going to do? She's not just like guaranteed another title match over on Raw. They're going to have her probably feud with Bianca. Bianca has a match with Charlotte for the Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch might get involved. She might make a little bit of an impact in that match and cause, I don't know though, because do you want to interfere and like cause Charlotte to lose and help Bianca? Like, why would you do that? Because I mean, Charlotte's coming over here to SmackDown too. So I mean, they already got the SmackDown belt on a SmackDown superstar. So they are in a little bit of a predicament here with Charlotte because I mean, you're gonna have two champions. You're gonna take the belt off Charlotte. Like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna manage this situation? It was weird. I didn't expect Sasha to win this match, but she really did. I mean, it was with a little bit of help from Bianca Belair. So she had a little bit of assistance. But like I said, I just thought the whole match was rushed. And even at the end, it was rushed because Adam Pearce kind of, when Becky Lynch was just like sitting there on the apron, like blaming Bianca Belair, you see Adam Pearce and like some people in black clothes, you know, just like the workers, the production team, or whoever it is, the camera crew. I don't really know who the hell it was. They ran out there and they put like the contract signing table in the middle of the ring. They set that little whole stage up and they kind of start rushing it because remember, it's commercial free. So we hear Roman Reigns music hit and then he comes out to the ring and his entrance was about 3.5 minutes. Shout out to Amanda Jen for tracking that and telling me on Twitter because I mean, that's long. And I will say, this one actually felt kind of sped up because I've seen entrances in the past where I timed it and it felt like it literally got up to like 6 minutes. Like, and that's including a commercial break, just whenever you look at like actual real time. But still, I mean, I don't know what else you'd be doing in the arena during a commercial break whenever Roman Reigns is kind of just standing there, maybe show like a video package or something like that to kind of keep the crowd invested. But either way, I thought this was a pretty long entrance and Amanda definitely confirmed that. But that's what we get. We get the contract signing next. I just thought it was weird that they rushed Becky and them out of the ring. Like, Becky just lost her belt. You're not going to let her have like a moment where like she kind of says what she's going to do next since Bianca was right there. Maybe have a little bit of encounter there. No, like they literally like rushed her out of the ring and kicked her off the apron. It was just a weird little setup there. But like I said, it just felt like they were crunched on time. I can't think of any other reason why you would just rush away in a huge moment like that, like Becky Lynch losing her championship. But the very last thing that happened on the show was the contract signing between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. And this might have been sped up, the whole like contract signing. Like I said, they were crunched on time getting this segment in the ring, so they didn't really waste any time doing the whole setup or the entire like interaction, the contract signing. Brock Lesnar had his typical little one-liner and left, and it was just because first thing, he signed the contract without even looking at it. He just picked it up and just signed it. Pat McAfee even kind of mentioned he didn't even sign on a line. He just literally signed the contract, which probably is true. I mean, there's no way that he actually signed his name on there. You don't really need it, I'm sure, because, I mean, how serious are the contracts in WWE when it comes to matches? John Cena just ran out there and put his name on one without even being in the actual like terms in the black and white print on the contract. His name was nowhere on there, but he signed it and he got a match. So I guess if you just sign your name on there in black marker across the entire sheet of paper, then it'll work. So that's really all you got to do. But the thing that, like I said, Brock Lesnar hits his one-liner here, and that is Roman Reigns kind of making fun of him, calls him a big dumb farmer because he doesn't actually read the contract before he signs it. So he says, I already read the contract. I looked over it earlier today with my advocate, Paul Heyman, and kind of just throws Paul under the bus again. Roman Reigns looks at him, so I mean, he just walks away. They're just stirring that pot a little bit more, you know, even though Paul Heyman made it very clear last week that he is not on the side of Brock Lesnar. They're still just leaving it out there. They want you to guess. They want you to wonder, is something going to happen on Crown Jewel? We have to tune into that. And just on a little bit of a side note here, because I mean, that's how SmackDown went off the air. So That's the last that we're going to see of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns before the actual match at Crown Jewel for the Universal Championship. We all expect Roman to win, but nothing is guaranteed. But about Crown Jewel, what I was going to say, is that not just like the lamest name for a pay-per-view? Like Crown Jewel, like what the hell are they thinking? And I know it's like in a different country and over there, I don't really know if it has anything to do with that. Probably does, but if it were here, like in the, United States, I feel like it would be considered one of the most like lame pay-per-view names of all time. That could just be my personal opinion. If you like it, I'm not trying to say that you're wrong or anything like that. It's just how I feel about that specific pay-per-view name. I'm old school. I think that any gimmick pay-per-view name is just absolutely stupid. You're making the gimmick the gimmick itself, like Extreme Rules. You're making Extreme Rules matches feel less and less important every year that we have that. TLC match is the exact same thing. Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, you name it. Money in the Bank. Well, I guess that one kind of makes sense. I feel like Money in the Bank deserves to be its own pay-per-view, but the other ones, not really. I think that they need to bring back some of the more vintage pay-per-view names that there's nothing wrong with. Unforgiven, Armageddon. You probably can't do Bad Blood, but Judgment Day. Great American Bash is used with the with the NXT every year, so that's nice. But No Way Out, that's another good one that should be right after the Royal Rumble. So there's pay-per-views out there that they can bring back, and I'm just holding out hope because you never know. WWE likes to every now and then do the right thing, but it's very rare, it seems like. But who knows? This could be one of the times that it happens. But that does just about do it for me here on the SmackDown Review. I do want to thank you for listening to this podcast. If you are a first-time listener, thank you for choosing it, and thank you for listening to it, whatever it is that you're doing right now, whether you're in your car, you're going to the gym, you're just at work, doing whatever it is. I definitely appreciate you bringing me with you and taking me along with you in your day. If you're a regular listener, thank you for making this part of your weekly routine. You guys know the drill. We're going to be back next week immediately after Crown Jewel. Not like immediately after, like literally. That's going to be Matt and the Botch guy or whoever is going to be talking about that pay-per-view. I'll be there the next day talking about the SmackDown on October 22nd once the actual rosters go into effect. So I'm really looking forward to this draft and this brand split officially beginning, and we can kind of focus in on these rivalries and these new matchups that we're going to get with these rosters. So hope you guys all have a fantastic week. Hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend before the work week. Let's not rush it too much. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams, and I'll talk to you next week.